All right, so you want to hear the latest in cybersecurity? Well, we got our hands on this interview with Sonia Fernández.
Oh, yeah, Sonia Fernández.
She's a leading expert in threat intelligence.
Yeah.
She heads up that whole area for Tales S21 SEC.
Right, folks behind that huge threat landscape report that comes out like every 6 months.
Exactly.
I think what's so interesting is that her team doesn't just like analyze reports.
Yeah.
They're like actively monitoring the cyber world, like in real time globally.
Wow.
It's like having a finger on the pulse of what these, what the bad guys are up to minute by minute.
Okay, so paint the picture for us. What is the state of cybersecurity in 2025? Sonia's report covers the last 6 months of 2024.
Right.
Any big surprises there?
Well, the usual suspects are still, causing trouble, ransomware, malware, these activist groups that are making headlines.
Right.
But what's different is that the level of sophistication, Sonia's team is seeing a huge spike in attacks, exploiting what are called zero-day vulnerabilities.
Zero-day vulnerabilities.
Yeah. Have you heard of those?
It sounds a bit ominous.
It is.
I'm guessing it's not good.
It's basically an attacker's dream.
Oh, really?
It means they found a weakness in software that, nobody knows about yet.
Okay.
There's no patches or fixes. It's like finding a secret backdoor into a fortress.
So you're getting blindsided by a weapon you didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
That's got to be a nightmare for companies trying to protect themselves.
Right.
Speaking of new threats, Sonia mentioned this ransomware as a service model.
Oh, yeah.
That's got to be more than just, your average software subscription.
Right. It's actually disturbingly similar to something like Netflix in a way. Cybercriminals can essentially subscribe to a service that gives them all the tools and support they need to launch like a sophisticated ransomware attack.
Really?
Yeah, and no coding skills required.
Hold on. So anyone with a little bit of cash can become a ransomware kingpin.
Yeah.
Doesn't that make this threat even more widespread?
It absolutely does, and it's not just the technical side that's evolving. Sonia stressed that the human factor is still the weakest link in cybersecurity. She's seeing increasingly clever social engineering tactics that prey on our natural tendencies to trust and be helpful.
It's easy to forget that even the most secure system can be compromised by a single click on a well-disguised phishing link.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, remember those data breaches that we talked about? All that personal information floating around is like gold to these cyber criminals.
Oh, yeah.
They use it to craft highly targeted attacks that are incredibly convincing.
So like a phishing email that looks like it's coming from your bank.
Exactly.
But it's actually a trap to steal your login credentials.
Yeah.
And I bet these attacks are getting harder and harder to spot.
They're masters of manipulation, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah.
But here's what I find really intriguing.
Yeah.
Just like cyber criminals are gathering intel on us.
Right.
Threat intelligence teams are doing the same to them.
Okay.
It's a constant game of cat and mouse.
So walk me through this. How does a threat intelligence team actually work? What are they looking for?
Think of them as digital detectives.
Okay.
They're constantly monitoring the dark web, tracking hacker groups, analyzing malware samples, and piecing together clues to identify and anticipate attacks. Right. It's like a real-life cyber thriller.
So they're basically using the same tactics as the bad guys, but for good?
Yeah.
That's got to be a tough job.
Yeah.
What kind of data are they after?
Everything from technical details about malware to understanding the motivations and strategies of different cyber criminal groups.
Interesting.
Sometimes they even infiltrate online forums to gather intel from the inside.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're basically building profiles on these hacker groups.
Right.
Just like those groups are building profiles on us.
It's a constant arms race.
Wow.
And intelligence gathering is crucial for both sides.
I'm starting to understand why Sonia emphasized the importance of staying informed. This is a whole other world that most of us are completely oblivious to.
Right.
But it's impacting our lives every day, whether we realize it or not.
Absolutely. And the stakes are getting higher, especially with the rise of cyber warfare fueled by geopolitical tensions.
Oh, wow. Sonia
highlighted the case of No Name, a pro-Russian group targeting organizations in countries supporting Ukraine.
So real-world conflicts are now playing out in the cyber realm.
Exactly.
That's got to be a major concern for governments and businesses.
It is.
It raises some important questions.
Yeah.
About how we defend ourselves in this new era of cyber warfare. Are we doing enough to protect critical infrastructure?
Right.
How do we deter state-sponsored attacks?
Right.
These are questions that we'll definitely need to explore further.
Yeah.
But first, I'm curious about the good guys in all of this.
Okay.
What role is law enforcement playing in fighting back against these cyber criminals?
Well, they're starting to make some progress, but it's an uphill battle. Sonia mentioned Operation Kronos, a recent operation targeting the Lockbit ransomware gang.
Mm-hmm.
They managed to disrupt their operations and recover some stolen funds.
That's encouraging to hear.
Yeah.
But knowing how quickly these groups adapt,
Right.
I'm guessing it's only a matter of time before they reemerge.
Unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah.
Dismantling one group often leads to its members scattering and forming new alliances.
Oh, wow.
It's like trying to stamp out a hydra, cut off one head, and 2 more grow back.
So we need to be realistic about the challenges law enforcement faces.
Yeah.
It's not just about catching the bad guys,
Uh-huh.
but also about staying ahead of their constantly evolving tactics.
Exactly. And that brings us to the question of what we as individuals can do to protect ourselves in this increasingly complex cyber landscape.
That's a great segue.
Right.
Let's dive into that in the next part of our deep dive. All right, so we've heard about the threats and the players and the high-stakes game of cyber intelligence.
Yeah.
But now let's get down to brass tacks. What can we as everyday folks actually do to protect ourselves in this wild west of cyberspace?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
The good news is even small steps can make a big difference.
Okay.
The first thing I would recommend is taking stock of your own digital footprint.
Okay.
Think about all the websites you use,
Right.
the apps on your phone, the devices connected to your home network.
Uh-huh.
It's like doing an inventory of your digital life.
Okay, so step one is awareness.
Right.
Knowing what we've got out there.
Yeah.
What's next on the checklist?
Next up is password hygiene. I know everyone's tired of hearing about strong passwords,
Right.
but it's still one of the most effective ways to protect your accounts.
Okay.
Use a unique, complex password for each site.
Right.
And consider using a password manager to keep track of them all.
That makes sense. I've been guilty of using the same password for multiple accounts in the past.
Yeah.
Definitely not a good idea, especially after hearing how much data is out there just waiting to be exploited.
It's like using the same key for your house, your car, and your safe deposit box.
Right.
1 weak link, and everything's compromised.
Makes sense.
And speaking of extra layers of security,
Yeah.
whenever possible, enable multi-factor authentication on your accounts.
Multi-factor authentication. Now, that's something I need to hear more about.
Yeah.
What exactly is that, and how does it help?
It's like having a double lock on your digital door.
Okay.
Even if someone manages to steal your password,
Right.
they still need another piece of information to access your account.
Right.
Usually a code sent to your phone or email.
Okay, so it's adding an extra hurdle for the bad guys to jump over?
Exactly.
I like it. What else should we be doing to keep our digital lives secure?
We've got to talk about phishing. It's still one of the most common ways that attackers trick people into giving up their personal information.
Right.
Always be skeptical of emails or messages that ask you to click on links, download attachments, or provide sensitive data.
Right. So even if an email looks like it's from someone you know, it could still be a trap.
Exactly.
I guess this is where knowing about those targeted attacks using leaked data comes in?
Yeah, exactly. Don't assume that just because an email seems legitimate, it is.
Right.
If you have any doubts, verify the sender's identity directly.
Okay.
A quick phone call or text can save you a lot of trouble.
Okay, so verify.
Exactly.
What about social media?
Right.
We all love to share. But how do we balance that with protecting our privacy?
Social media is a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's great for connecting with people,
Uh-huh.
but it's also a goldmine for cyber criminals.
Right.
Think carefully about what personal information you share publicly.
Okay.
Your address, your phone number, your birthday, even vacation plans.
Right.
All of that can be used to build a profile that makes you a more attractive target.
So it's all about being mindful of our digital footprint,
Right.
even when we're just trying to connect with friends and family.
Precisely. And while we're talking about things to be mindful of, let's not forget about software updates. I know they can be annoying,
Yeah.
but those updates often contain crucial security patches that close vulnerabilities that attackers could exploit.
So those pesky pop-ups that tell us to update our software, we shouldn't ignore them.
Think of them as getting a free security upgrade for your devices.
Oh.
It only takes a few minutes, and it could save you a lot of headaches down the line.
Okay. I'm starting to feel like I'm actually building a pretty decent cyber defense here.
Good.
But is there anything else we can do to simplify our cybersecurity efforts?
Yeah,
It does feel like there's a lot to remember.
absolutely. One simple thing you can do is be more discerning about the apps you install on your devices
Okay.
before downloading anything. check its permissions and read reviews.
Right.
Make sure you understand what data it collects and how it uses that data.
You're right. I rarely pay attention to app permissions.
Yeah.
But I guess if a flashlight app is asking for access to my contacts or location,
Right.
that should be a red flag.
Exactly. Don't just blindly click.
Right.
Except question what's really necessary for an app to function.
Okay.
And speaking of being cautious, let's talk about public Wi-Fi.
Ah, yes. Public Wi-Fi, the lifeblood of coffee shops and airports everywhere.
I know, right?
But I have to admit, I've always wondered how secure it really is.
Public Wi-Fi is convenient, but it's also inherently less secure than your home network.
Okay.
If you're using public Wi-Fi, avoid accessing sensitive information,
Right.
like your bank account or online shopping sites.
Okay.
And if you absolutely have to consider using a VPN...
A VPN. Okay. You have to break that one down for me.
Okay.
What is a VPN? How does it work?
A VPN, or virtual private network, creates a secure tunnel for your internet traffic.
Okay.
It encrypts your data and routes it through a server in another location, making it much harder for hackers to intercept your information.
Cool.
Think of it as a cloak of invisibility for your online activity.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
So a VPN adds an extra layer of protection, especially when we're on public Wi-Fi.
Right.
But it also seems like there's a bit of a theme emerging here.
Yeah.
It's not just about the technology. It's also about our own behavior and awareness.
You're absolutely right. Technology can only take us so far.
Yeah.
Cybersecurity also requires common sense and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Okay.
If something seems too good to be true online, it probably is.
Right.
Don't click on suspicious links.
Right.
Don't open attachments from unknown senders.
Right.
And always be wary of sharing personal information.
Okay, so it's a combination of tech smarts and street smarts for the digital age.
Exactly.
But in a world where cyber threats are constantly evolving, how do we stay ahead of the curve?
Right.
How do we stay informed?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll dive into in the next part of our deep dive.
We've covered a lot of ground-strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, dodging phishing scams, even using a VPN to stay safe on public Wi-Fi.
Right.
It feels like we're building a pretty solid defense already. But in this ever-changing cyber landscape, how do we make sure we're not just keeping up, but actually staying ahead of the curve? How do we stay informed about the latest threats and strategies?
Yeah, that's where being a lifelong learner comes in handy.
Okay.
Think of it like keeping your cybersecurity software updated.
Right.
But for your brain.
Okay. I like that cybersecurity software updates for our brains.
Yeah.
So where do we even begin?
Well, one of the simplest ways is to tap into the wealth of information available online.
Okay.
There are some fantastic cybersecurity news sources and blogs out there.
Okay.
Places like SANS Institute,
Right.
Krebs on Security, Threat Post.
Yeah.
They've got experts breaking down complex topics in ways that anyone can understand.
So it's like creating our own personalized cybersecurity news feed.
Exactly.
Any other recommendations for where to find reliable info?
Social media can be a goldmine, too, if you know where to look.
Okay.
Follow cybersecurity experts and organizations on Twitter, LinkedIn. It's a great way to stay updated in real time.
That's a good point. I hadn't really thought about using social media that way.
Yeah.
It's usually just cat videos and political rants.
I know, right? But you can find some real gems in there.
Okay.
Trust me. And here's a bonus tip.
Okay.
A lot of organizations, including government agencies and cybersecurity companies, offer free webinars, workshops, even online courses.
Wow.
They're a fantastic way to deepen your knowledge and pick up practical tips.
Free cybersecurity education. I'm all ears.
Right.
Any suggestions on where to find these resources?
The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, has a ton of great resources on their website.
Okay.
And many cybersecurity companies like Cisco and Symantec offer free training materials as well.
Okay. I'm making a note of all of this.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much information is out there if you know where to look.
Right.
But what if we come across something online and we're not sure if it's legitimate?
That's a great question, and it highlights another important aspect of staying informed.
Okay. Don't be afraid to ask for help.
Okay.
If you see something that seems suspicious or you're not sure about, reach out to someone you trust.
Okay.
Talk to your IT department at work.
Right.
Consult a cybersecurity professional, or even ask a tech-savvy friend.
So it's about acknowledging that we don't have to be experts in everything, right?
Right.
There are people who can help us navigate these complex issues.
Exactly. Cybersecurity is a shared responsibility.
Yeah.
The more we talk about it, share information, and learn from each other, the better equipped will all be to stay safe.
Okay.
It's like that old saying, knowledge is power.
That's so true. And Sonia really drove that point home.
Yeah.
She stressed that cybersecurity isn't a one-time fix.
Right.
It's an ongoing process, kind of like staying healthy. You can't just eat one salad and expect to be in shape forever.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Just like we prioritize our physical health, we need to prioritize our digital health as well.
It's about building good habits, staying vigilant, and constantly learning and adapting.
So to wrap things up, it seems like the key takeaway here is that staying informed is an essential part of our cybersecurity strategy.
Yes.
Whether it's reading articles, following experts on social media, taking online courses, or simply asking questions.
Right.
The more we know, the better we can protect ourselves.
Couldn't said it better myself.
Yeah.
And remember, you don't have to do it all at once.
Right.
Start small, build on your knowledge, and make cybersecurity a part of your daily routine.
Well, this has been a truly enlightening deep dive. Thanks for joining us and sharing your expertise.
It was my pleasure. Stay safe out there and keep learning.